She is a speaker, a retired professional athlete, coach, and educator who partners with organizations, individuals worldwide to build a mindset, motivation, and strategies needed for lasting success, known as the coach's coach. Marke delivers acclaimed keynote speeches and training that is inspiring action and transformation. Yet, to most, she's simply an ordinary woman with an extraordinary message. One that has profoundly shifted the trajectory of countless lives. Now, once again, this is the gold medal match. It gives all that excitement. Get on your feet and get it. Let's go for Marke Freeman. Let's go.
Thank you very much. Oh man, that's special. That's special, yeah. We're good. Oh man, the energy in here is electric. I can already just get a glimpse of what's been taking place throughout the course of the weekend. So excited to be here. Hey, when I was on my way here, when I was flying in, I was actually reflecting on a story from one of my mentors. And I remember when I first got into coaching, she shared this story with me, and she was talking about her first year of coaching. She had a pretty good year. She was coaching with a high school team, and they didn't have a history of winning. And so she had given them their first winning season in years. And she said at the end of the season, she had gotten 2 emails. One was for the athletic director, and it read, "Great season, outstanding record. We're looking forward to more winning seasons to come." Celebratory, right? One that she was super excited about. But then she received a second email. Now this one came from an athlete, and it read this. It said, "Coach, you were the mentor I didn't realize I needed. Thank you for not giving up on me." Pretty special, right? Both very different from different perspectives, but still very, very special. Fast forward 22 years later, going into her 22nd season, she had already decided that she was going to retire. So she started packing up her bags, but she said she was going to finish the season, giving it her absolute best as she had done all throughout her career. Once she got to the end of that season, well, to be quite honest, it was a non-winning season. But it was interesting because after she submitted her letter to officially retire, and it was announced, 2 people entered her office. One was the athletic director. He said this, he said, "Katie, 22 years. I know this season wasn't winning. I know it wasn't as successful as other seasons have been, but we want to thank you for your commitment." She sat back on that after 22 years of coaching, and she thought that was kind of a backhanded compliment. But then entered another individual into her office, and it was a player. And she said this, she said, "Coach, you probably don't remember this, but it was my junior year when you came up to me and you said, you would make an outstanding leader. You have to lead into that discomfort." She said, "It didn't make sense then, but now I'm the leader of a group in my pre-med program, and I have to credit all of that to the experience I had with you as an athlete. Thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself." Again, 2 very good conversations, but what was phenomenal is one was transactional and one was transformational. When I sat there, I was going into my first year of coaching. And if you're like me, I've coached some of them all. I've coached some of the worst teams in our conference. Can I get an amen? Amen. And I've also coached some of the best teams in the country. We made it as far as the Elite 8, lost the national champions by a couple buckets, gave them the best game in the NCAA tournament. So I'd like to say we were the 2nd best team in the country. Is that okay to say? I coached some really good teams, but what I realized going into my very first year of coaching is there's something that we have to analyze, a decision that we have to make as coaches every single season. Do we want to be remembered for our ripple, or do we want to be remembered for our record? What we're going to be talking about today is coaching that transforms, how to elevate our impact, how to enhance our culture, and how to create alignment and unity across all levels. So I'm going to ask you guys the same question my mentor asked me. Are you here for your record or your ripple? I'll say that again. Are you here for your record or your ripple? When you leave OVA, the Ontario Volleyball Association, what will you leave them with? The athletes that you get to serve every single day. See what I did there? Serve? Serve? Volleyball? No? No? Am I trying too hard? Basketball background. When you leave here, how will you leave them? And I'm very fortunate. I've stepped away from coaching here recently, but I still work with coaches every single day. And in fact, my 9 to 5, so to speak, I'm a sideline reporter and analyst, so I cover college and professional basketball. I cover the SEC for college basketball, and I also cover the WNBA and the NBA as well. And so I get to work with some of the most incredible minds in the game. And I cheat. Because what I do is I study their greatness in an effort to discover my own. And so looking at some of the best coaches, past and present, what are some of the common denominators? That is my thought process. What are some of the common denominators? What separates them? What sets them apart? There may be something that resonates with you, and I want you to identify it. And if you do, write it down. Write it down. Be studious. Write it down, because in a moment we're going to have an opportunity to share it with someone else. What really resonates? What sets them apart? And I'll give it away. They all win. All right? They all win, but there's some other commonalities that need to be considered as well. All right, in a moment, we're going to have an opportunity to connect with someone else in this room, and you'll just share with someone close to you. Zoom out before you zoom in. Make sure everybody has someone to connect with, and I want you to share something that resonated with you, and then we'll have an opportunity to share with the group. Sound good? Sound good? All right, so here's something I do with my athletes. I run a skills academy back in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where I reside. And whenever we transition from one activity to another, we transition with an echo and a two clap. Now, what this does is it communicates alignment, all right? And there's no question as to what's coming next, all right? So I'm gonna say, let's get it. You're gonna say, let's get it. We'll clap twice and we'll get right to it, right? Now, the first time we do this is gonna be really, really bad. But the beautiful thing about it is there are second opportunities. You might be able to get it on the first try. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
Not bad at all. Go for it. Go for it. All right. We're definitely in a room full of coaches. You guys like to talk. Like to talk a lot. All right. So I'm excited to hear what we talked about. What are some things we discussed?
In that what you see as the end result, you don't see everything that goes into it. And I feel like a lot of the coaches talked about character attributes rather than actual physical attributes of the athlete. So it comes down to developing character first to allow the time next to create the end result.
Oh my goodness, Matthew, that was so great. So I love poetry, and whenever we acknowledge something, it's just a quick way to celebrate. So we'll snap to celebrate that. Really good.
We were just talking about how those quotes focus on the process more than the outcome. So attention to detail, the little things. When you do the little things, it all comes together, and it will lead to the outcome, the medals, the awards, all that, right? So the little things matter.
Yes. I couldn't agree with that more. And many of you guys already shared, Matthew, you alluded to this as well. Like, one thing that really stood out to me was what Coach John Wooden said. Like, a lot of people want success, but they don't take into consideration how much time is required to be successful. And to me, success and wins are two totally different things, and that's something that we're going to discuss here in a moment. It takes time. And I think that's part of the reason why so many average coaches, the program never can be as successful as it could be. The athletes never could be as developed as they could be, because they don't take the time that is required. Something else that stood out to me was the quote by Don Shula, former player, coach, and executive for the Miami Dolphins. And he made the quote, he wrote the quote about the inferior man versus the superior man. And I don't like the word superior. There's some things I would change there. But I think there is an accountability that comes with being in the position that we're in. There's a lot of accountability that is required. And oftentimes we go into seasons and we can find so many different things to blame. But there's so many new opportunities for us. And that's extremely important. And so in order for us to maximize this season, in order for us to maximize the opportunity that we have right now, well, we got to address a myth. And if you were here last spring with me, we addressed this myth, but I think it's okay to revisit here as well. There's a myth that says there's no I in team. But the truth is there is an I in team. It's right there in the a-hole. Right? And whether appropriate or not, some of us can be that a-hole. Okay? Can I get an amen? All right, if you're not amening, we might be talking about you. Okay? We might be talking about you. But let's be clear. In order for us to truly maximize the team and the opportunity that we have to set aside some of our ways, the title, the status, our past experiences, our past records. We have to set those things aside. And last year, if you were here with me, we talked about what that I represents. And one thing that the I represents is impact to me. It represents impact because that's what we do as coaches. We impact and we serve. And last year we talked about creating a culture of care. And it was an acronym that we discussed where the A is for consistency. Consistency in how we show up, being dependable. We talked about the A in care, which is for appreciation, going 8 for our players, creating an environment of celebration. The R is for respect. Respecting everyone and where they are, respecting their differences, knowing that versatility adds value. And then of course the E is, which is for elevate. Elevate, equip, educate, empower those who are in our care, those who are in our reach. But today we're gonna go just a step further than that. I think this I can represent so many different things. Not only does it represent impact, I also think it represents influence and inclusion. And when you think about the top coaches, when I think about the most impactful coaches in my life, last night I was at a Hall of Fame ceremony in Bloomington, Illinois. And it was so interesting because when each of them were inducted into the Hall of Fame and they had players come up and talk about them, none of them talked about the record. Not one. They might have mentioned the championship they won, but they talked about the impact. They talked about the influence. They talked about how that individual made them feel. They talked about the ripple more than they talked about the record. And that's what I would like to believe are transformational coaches. And there's 2 different types of coaches. You got team coaches and you got developmental coaches. You got transformational coaches and you have transactional coaches. So here's something that I would like to do. We're all sitting at tables right now. I would like for us to discuss the biggest differences between transactional and transformational, or between a team coach, which is more transactional, and a developmental coach, which is more transformational. And you can write these down because we'll have an opportunity to discuss these as well. Any questions about what's coming next? All right. I know as coaches, we're outstanding at giving instruction. You're going to see how we are at receiving it and applying it. I'm going to say transformational. You'll say transformational. We'll clap twice and we'll get right into it. Transformational. Transformational. There we go. Right into it. I like that. If you agree, go ahead and snap it up. Yes, we had a couple more hands. Perfect.
My name is Kyle. I think what the main takeaway from our group was that in a transactional relationship, you're kind of missing the mentorship piece and like the genuine part of coaching, whereas a transactional is like for personal gain or like between the coach and the athlete, but you're missing a genuine side.
Thank you for sharing. Really good. We got one right here.
I'm Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. This is one that might seem easy because it's so obvious, but transactional is actually easy, whereas transformational, we said, was hard.
If I had to narrow it down, here's how I would sit them side by side and make the greatest differences. Prioritizing outcomes, wins, stats, rankings. Transactional is also motivating through record or rewards and consequences. A culture driven by fear of failure of results. Leading from a place of status or authority. And finally, what that creates is an extrinsically motivated team and coaches. And then if we take a look at transformational, well, They prioritize habits, mindset, resilience, motivated by vision, purpose, connection, beliefs, values. Culture is driven by meaning and belonging, right? And ultimately, that leads to intrinsically motivated athletes. Now, here's the thing that is so impressive about that. This is what I love about it, is they've done a study. Stanford did a study, and also the Journal of, wrong way. I'm gonna figure this clicker out in a moment. Journal of Sports Science. They did a study, and some of the things that they recorded, it's actually pretty powerful. Transformational coaches, they have the ability to encourage higher player satisfaction, influence higher player satisfaction, increase motivation. They have lower burnout and also stronger team cohesion. Here's the thing about this. Though it is harder, it requires more time. When we are transformational, success is sustained, it's longer. The thing about transactional coaching is temporary. Winning is just in the moment. A coach by the name of Muffet McGraw, she's a head coach, just recently retired from Notre Dame, multiple national championships, outstanding coach, and outstanding mentor to me as well. She said this, she said, you can win today and still lose tomorrow. But when you're successful, you could win tomorrow by simply being successful today and in this moment. And so when we look at our practices, when we're preparing for our practices, when we're preparing for our seasons, we want to be successful. We want to choose success over just simply winning every single day. And this is a day-by-day opportunity. So one thing that I would write down, if you are writing things down right now, choose culture over wins. Choose development over wins. Choose character over wins. Now, here's another thing that I would say is every single one of the coaches that we have discussed today, even the ones that resonated most with us, those coaches have the ability to win. Because with success, you can win. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a few other things right now. Right now, I want you to draw these 9 dots on your notebooks. Go ahead and draw them. And just curious, how many of you guys have ever done the 9-dot puzzle? All right, don't tell anybody. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. We'll see how much you've improved. Write 9 dots in your notebook, and you probably want to create those 9 dots multiple times because there's a chance that you may not get it right the first time. In a moment, you're going to have 1 minute. You're going to try to connect all 9 of those dots by creating 4 lines and without picking up your pencil or your pen. All right, how many of us feel we were successful? We feel okay. See a lot of people that have done this before, raising their hand as well. How many people did not feel like they accomplished the puzzle? Okay, it's all right, we're gonna figure this out. I want you to raise your hand if you didn't realize that you could go outside of those dots. Raise your hand as high as your standards, Here's something that needs to be addressed. Here's something that needs to be addressed with this puzzle. So many of us, we did not succeed because we felt limited by lines and parameters that weren't even there. There were no restrictions other than not lifting your pencil or your utensil and 4 lines. There were no other restrictions. And see, this is what happens in coaching. Many of us, we're limited to coaching the way that we've been taught or the way that we've done it for years. We're not open to thinking outside of the box or outside of our norm. We've had some success with this way, and so we're not open to the new ways. We're stuck in this box that doesn't even exist. So with that said, when we step into coaching, when we step into our seasons, in order for us to truly be successful and maximize the moment and the responsibilities we have in our roles, we have to be willing to think outside of our norm. So with a new idea of what transformational coaches do and what they're capable of accomplishing, with this new idea of approaching it open-minded, let's approach our scoreboard so that we can truly maximize this role and this opportunity. As I said before, I'm a firm believer that there's a great difference between winning and succeeding, a great difference. I've been fortunate to coach at multiple levels, and I've done both very, very well, okay? And here's one thing that I've learned. Coaching at Washington University, a team that made it to the NCAA tournament over 20 times in a row, one of the top teams in the country, known for winning, so to speak. There were many times where we won, the scoreboard reflected a win. It said we won. We were up at the end of a game, at the end of the match. But when we walked into that huddle, when we walked into that locker room, it didn't feel like success. Has anybody ever won a match by record or by score, but didn't necessarily execute at a high level? Maybe our bench wasn't as involved. Maybe our leadership was poor. Maybe we didn't respond as well. Maybe we weren't as coachable. Raise your hand if you've been there before. We've all done it. We've all done it. So if we only equate our wins or our success to the scoreboard, are we truly winning? And here's something that my coach, my mentor, Marke Freeman, a winning coach, this is what she taught me when she shared her seasons of experience as a high-level coach. She taught me this: you can go into any game, win, lose, or draw, and come out of it successful. It is very possible. And no, you don't have to sacrifice wins in order to do that. You can still win and be successful. But you can have every single season, at the tail end of every single season, walk out of there and feel accomplished. But it's based on how we define our scoreboard. And that's my next question for you. How you define your scoreboard? What do you equate to winning? What do you equate to success? What are we telling our athletes? And something that we have to understand is this has to be bigger than anything we put on the back of a t-shirt or the front of it. It has to be bigger than our team slogan for the year. It has to be bigger than the quote that we put at the bottom of our signatures in our emails. Because our values are only our standards, our culture is what's actually lived out day to day. So how do you define your scoreboard? That's what we're about to do right now. And here's something that I learned just studying some of the top teams in the game, top teams in sports. How many of you guys are familiar with this organization right here? Tap your pins if you are. The All Blacks. Well known for their winning record, right? 77% winning record. They've been tested over 650 times. The most winning program in the history of sports that we know of. Here's what's most impressive about the All Blacks. More also known for their ritual, the haka, which expresses their culture's unity and pride. But what I think is really, really special about this program, which is the most historically successful program of all sports, is that they don't put an emphasis on winning. And I know some of us are thinking, no, they just say that. You have to win. If you're gonna put on an All Blacks uniform, you have to win. If you're gonna coach an All Blacks team, you have to win. But they focus on three things. And this is what they live out daily because they believe that this directly contributes to their team's success. The very first thing is respect. It's respect for self, respect for their peers, respect for their opponents, respect for coaches, respect for the jersey when they put it on, and respect for that same jersey the moment they take it off. Another slogan that they have is humility. They call it clean the shed, sweep the shed. Sweep the shed. And that simply means thinking less about self. Now you're talking about players that are on one of the top teams, the top team of all times. And they're supposed to think less of themselves. And that impacts how they show up in the community. That impacts how they show up as parents, as significant others. And it exceeds far, far beyond just the field that they're playing on. And then the third and the final thing is discipline. They have a ridiculous attention to detail. Their goal is to do the same thing over and over again as well as it can be done. And when you think about that, humility, discipline, and respect, that can quickly and very easily turn into wins in the win column. Are you with me? How do we define it? We're gonna have an opportunity to define it right now. We're gonna do something just a little different, get up and get active. So what we're gonna do here in a moment, I want you guys to go and find an individual that you don't get an opportunity to talk to much. You're gonna go on the other side of the room, maybe you know them, but you just don't know them well, maybe you don't know them at all right? You're gonna stand up. Do you mind standing up for me, please? Do you mind standing up for me? And you're simply gonna go and you're gonna give them a high five above the shoulder. We wanna get the endorphins going. And then you're gonna give them a shoulder bump. All right, I don't know how much shoulder bumping you do in volleyball, but we do a lot of it in basketball. All right. Once you introduce yourselves, then you're going to have an opportunity to have a discussion that I'll share with you here in a moment. So right now, in a moment, high five, shoulder bump. I'm Marky. How are you? Oh, you're a hugger? I think we just made this entire room better. All right? Share your names, and then I will give instruction. If you need a partner, hold your fist up, and someone will come and find you. Any questions about what we're doing? Let's get it.
Let's get it.
Oh. Let's try that again. Hey,
You're the front row.
how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
There we go. Find that person. When you walk out of a game, win, lose, or draw, before the ball is even served, how will you define your scoreboard? How will you define success? How will you challenge your players beyond just wins, results, performance, and stats?
We talked a lot about establishing culture first, and we talked a lot about communication, because if you establish a culture, whether it be the care example that we talked about or any other example, it's a set of rules and standards that everybody has to follow, and that way your teammates are also able to hold you accountable as well. So it's also that personal individual growth, and then a coach can also step in and lead as well. And then I also talked about hard work, like making that extra play, like when the ball goes over there and you're not fully able to go get it, at least making the effort to dive and hit the floor, because that shows you're working hard and going the extra mile to make that play, and you're actively trying to get better to see if you can eventually get that ball. Because at the end of the day, you don't know until you go. Right?
Oh man, mic drop. I love that one, Matthew. I love it. And I think so much of part of being a developmental coach is introducing athletes to effort. Some of them don't know what effort truly is. And so giving them something that's measurable, and I think that's really, really good. Another thing you talked about is accountability. And I'll say this, a player-led team is always going to be better than a coach-led team. Peer feedback, as long as it's healthy, and we can teach them that, and a good culture, is always going to be more powerful than anything we could ever say until we're blue in the face. And so if we create an environment where they're receptive to that, and that's okay, and Chrissy or Chris are not just being jerks, it's actually allowed and supported in this environment, think of how successful we can be. Think of the experience we can create. Think of the culture we can create.
Another thing that my team did this past year, we've done it the past couple of years, is our team slogan was "Leave it better than you found it." Whether that goes for your equipment, picking up garbage from the bench, you lose a tough point, you come into the team huddle, you're leaving that team huddle better than how you guys came in, with a new attitude, whether you're taking a breath together to reset for the next point. So that's something we did, and guys really bought into it. They were really cautious about putting away equipment and being a role model, especially for the younger teams in the club, because we were an older 18 team as well.
Oh man, I got an interesting story about that, but I love it. It equates to success. A good friend of mine, TJ Rosine, he coaches at Emmanuel College right outside of Atlanta, and that's a hill he's willing to die on. He's won 3 national championships. He's a 3-time coach of the year, outstanding coach, and a great friend of mine as well. And he's willing to die on it. I remember in a national championship run, they have a Pizza Hut that's connected to their arena. And whenever they have a practice, every once in a while, they'll go over to Pizza Hut and they'll have a drink, or they'll go over there and they'll do their homework. Now, this day, the coaches decided to get out of the office, and they were going to go over to Pizza Hut and meet over there instead of meeting in their usual space. And them knowing that the athletes had just left there, they walk into Pizza Hut, and Pizza Hut was trashed, for lack of a better word. There were napkins, cups, plates everywhere. And as a coach who truly, truly values leaving your environment better than you found it, and that's a hill he's willing to die on, he knew immediately the next day it was going to be addressed. What do we think happened? What do we think happened? Well, the first thing that happened was the next day as they're getting ready for practice, he sends a text message to the chat and he says, don't worry about putting your basketball shoes on. Just come in your running shoes and we'll meet in the gym. I see some lips curling up like, oh no, I see some heads going down. There's some trauma there as well, right? They get in the room, in the gym. He approaches his athletes. His athletes are a little taken back. They know somebody's done something. They're looking at one another like, who did it and what was it? He walks into the gym and he immediately addresses it. He said, here at this program, one of our cornerstones is leaving our environment better than we found it. Our coaches met yesterday and we met in Pizza Hut right after you guys left. And I have to say, we were not happy to see what we walked in on, with that being one of our cornerstones. So he said, instead of practicing, now this is in the fourth quarter of their season where they should be preparing for a national championship. Instead of practicing today, you know what we're gonna do? We're about to go up to Pizza Hut for the next 2 days, and we're gonna work in there for free. Because that's what a winning culture does. That's what a winning team does. And he's willing to sacrifice 2 days of practice that honestly, if you're competing for a national championship, you guys know there's not enough time in the world. He gave up 2 days of practice because that's a hill he's willing to die on. And he recognizes that, yeah, it could affect their ability to be prepared for their next game. It could. But that's not bigger than the most important thing, which is the success of these young men, which is the success of this program long term. A team a group, a program that has won 20 games for the last 10 years straight. Known for success, they don't lose. NBA draft picks, a player playing for the Brooklyn Nets right now. He knows success, he knows how to develop talent, but he also knows those things are really, really important. And you have to have non-negotiables. And that's one thing I would write down if you haven't already. There has to be a hill you're willing to die on. Something that you're willing to stand for. Something that you truly believe in. You can't waver. In game, big game, you can't waver. You have to stand on it for the development of them as individuals, as players, as athletes, and also as performers as well.
The big takeaway that me and my partner took from that was sacrifice. So it's like in this scenario, even like they're sacrificing training. You could view it as a sacrifice of training, but it's like their own personality, like that they're working on. So a lot of people, especially outside of high performance sports, I think see all the sacrifice that goes into it. Whether it's like socializing, like you're not going out with your friends, you're going to bed, you're eating better, whatever it is. I think that is something that you don't see in competition. Everybody wants to compete, everybody wants to play in the matches. It's the time you spend before that doing maybe something you don't want to do. Maybe like for me, I find my workouts, like I struggle with that. I don't enjoy it, but I know it's like a sacrifice I have to make to get to where I want to go.
Yes, succeed today and win tomorrow. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. So, another thing that I feel we need to address as well are the 5 keys of coaching. Now, I've worked with an organization called PGC for the last 12 years, and we've broken down coaching into 3 keys. 3 keys, and it doesn't matter what sport, 5 keys, I'm sorry, 5 keys. It doesn't matter what sport you coach. Player development. There's also leadership, culture, mastering teaching, and then X's and O's. Now, the reason I put this up on the board, and if you don't do anything else, one thing that I would advise you to do is identify something that you're strong in, one category that you're strong in, and identify a category that you want to grow in, and spend time there. Spend time growing in that area. But one thing that I would address is that most coaches, average coaches, they spend more time on systems and strategies than they do anything else. And I would argue that you're going to win more games with culture than you ever will with systems and strategies. You're going to win more games you're going to sustain more success with player development than you ever will with systems and strategies. And so it's something that needs to be addressed. And I firmly believe that that's the biggest issue in youth sports. Right now, we're sacrificing development for wins. I'm getting a lot of nods. I see it in the game of basketball every single day. The athlete that grows first, well, you guys familiar with what a post player is? Forward, center. Well, since they grew first, they're in the 8th grade, a 6'2" 8th grader, awesome. We're gonna equip them with the skills just to play inside. And what happens is that 6'2" 8th grader stops growing, and then they're undersized and underskilled. Tap your pins if this is something that you see in the volleyball space as well. It's so unfortunate. But if you look at in Europe, and I think this definitely has to be addressed, but if you look in Europe, how many of you guys are familiar with FC Barcelona? An outstanding football club in Europe, outstanding football club known for producing some of the top players in the world. If you take a look at the top 10 programs right now, European football, they have over 100, specifically 107 FC Barcelona athletes on those teams. Teams of 25. They've taken over European football. And what's impressive about them is not simply their ability to win or produce these athletes, it's their grassroots program. The reason they're so good is because they put more energy in their grassroots program. They have a robust youth development program that is second to none. A friend of mine who actually has done some studying under their coaching development program shared that one thing that they try to refrain from using is the word win. 2 words that they use to replace the word win is compete, and then they use the word succeed. Compete and succeed.
Similar to what Jess said, and like my philosophy is I'm a coach to be there for the athletes to make them better teammates, but also better, excuse me, humans. Because after sport, it's life. So we have to teach them how to go into life by being better humans, and teaching them like there are going to be controversy and how you handle it. So sport helps with that, not only with skill, but life skills as well.
Really good, really good. So they focus on the development of the athletes, so skills and ability, and equipping every player with the most dominant skills, regardless of their athleticism, so that they're not sacrificing development. And another thing that they do is they try to put them in challenging situations, right? So they have to deal with some form of adversity. Make it hard now so it's easier later. Really, really good. Thanks for sharing. So when we look at development, that's something that we have to take into consideration. We want to make sure that we are developing them off the court as well, but we're also giving them the skills that are going to allow them to continue to grow as well. It starts with high character. If we can teach them discipline, if we can teach them work ethic, if we can teach them accountability, if it's a player-led culture, if we can teach them how to be consistent and master the small things, and we create that in our development, well, that's going to allow us to have high performances. But we don't want to start with high performance and totally sacrifice character and development as well, because we can't be sure we're going to get the results that we're seeking. So we want to start with high character, and then we'll move on to development. And when you look at other programs, how many of you guys have watched the Olympic Games and watched the Jamaican sprint teams take the podium 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Here's another thing that's really, really special about this program as well. Now, they have done tons of research to study how this program is so good over and over and over again. And let's get straight to it. They win. They win. But it starts with their success. What's more impressive about this program is, again, their robust youth development program. It starts with youth. Yeah, we saw them take the podium in 2024, but they built that success 10 and 15 years prior. How did they do that? Well, their 3 cornerstones, the 3 things that they focus on within their program is discipline, consistency, and then they also focus on their habits as well. Discipline, consistency, and their habits. And the final thing that they're consistently trying to do is put them in tough situations to challenge their mindset, very similar to the same practices that they do at FC Barcelona. So when we see the success of a Usain Bolt, it's not just simply Him. It's not just simply him. He's come from a program with decades and decades and decades of success that has built a culture that allows for that. So what I'd ask now is, when does that start for you? When does it start for OVA? I see some people saying now. I would argue yesterday. Many of us in the positions that we're in, we're coaching 14, 15. Others may be coaching a little older. Others may be coaching a little younger. Listen, this is the most important days of their playing career. This is the most important. And it's okay to have aspirations to coach a national team. I love that. But I think it's really important for us as coaches to understand the value and the opportunity that we have right now. Right now. From the front of your bench to the very end of your bench. What are they receiving from you? What type of development are we providing? Are we focusing solely on the players that already have it? Or are we equipping the players that don't necessarily have it? And if you ask me, I would like to say that personally, I think it's harder to coach at this level. At the level where players are less experienced. I think it requires a little bit more. The challenges are different. When you come with players that already have the mindset, they already understand how to build a winning culture, a successful culture. When you have those players, then you can just you can focus more solely on the X's and O's. But at this level, this is where you are needed the most. This is where your time and the energy and the passion that you have for coaching, this is where players need it the most. This is where they need to be equipped with those habits. This is where they need the love and the attention. This is where they need to be introduced to the better version of themselves that's going to set them up not only on the volleyball court, but far beyond. So if you ask me, when does it start? I would say yesterday. I would say yesterday. I would say yesterday in the conversations that we're having with our players. I would say yesterday in the conversations that we're having amongst ourselves. I would say yesterday in our practices. I would say yesterday in our scoreboard. I would say it started yesterday. And then another thing that I would say is making those values very, very clear. Are the players, are they a part of those conversations? Are they your standards? Or are they truly the team standards? Are they familiar with the values of this program? Are they consistent across the board? Because one thing that I've learned working with organizations is if there's 19 teams, you can't have 19 different values and missions, understandings of how to create a successful culture, how to build and sustain success. It's got to be unified as well. Are they familiar with that? Your culture, is that something that you fight for every single day? Every single day, regardless of the day. Even when you're on your road to a national championship, not sacrificing that player, not sacrificing that moment to teach and develop, not sacrificing that moment to stand on what your values are, the values of the program, what our values are, and making sure we're consistently conveying that message. It must be consistent. So another thing that I'm going to add here before we get ready to get out of here is unified coaching, which is extremely important. Now, when we take a look at FC Barcelona, when we take a look at the Jamaican national team, when we take a look at the All Blacks, something that is really, really consistent, there is clarity that there is one program, one purpose, and one focus. There's one legacy. There's one. 19 different teams. FC Barcelona now has a facility in New York where they're training athletes. They're all over the world now. One message. And everybody is in constant communication to make sure that we are all aligned. Communication is the same. Values are the same. Aligned in mind and heart. That's how we build and sustain success. So with that being said, we want to make sure we have one system. The next thing I would say is more in relation to coaching hierarchy. Valuing where we are right now. If I could say anything to us as coaches, yes, we want to focus more on our ripple than just our record. The most powerful coaches do. but we want to make sure we are exactly where our feet are. Be present for those players every single day. Understand the value in your role, because if you don't really understand the value in your role, if we don't understand the value and the responsibility that we have, how can we star in that role? In order for us to truly succeed, we all have to believe in what we're trying to build. Everybody has to be one. Everyone in this room, and if there's someone missing, it's our responsibility to make sure that they're aware and they're aligned. It's buy-in as well. So here's the last thing we're gonna do right now. In a moment, you guys are gonna get into groups. And I'm gonna get you guys into groups. KP was kind enough to give us a list. This is the last thing that we're gonna do in our groups. And we're gonna answer 2 questions. And I'll let you start reflecting on it now. Starting with why, what's one action we can take individually to support and show up for one another? Individually. And we can limit this to our own clubs for now. We can limit that to our own clubs for now. The second question is focusing on the we. What's one action that we can take as one program to support one another? Whether we're 14, 15U, 17, 18U, whether we're coaching beach, whether we're coaching indoor. How can we create unity? How can we align on the language and the culture to build and sustain a winning culture within Ontario Volleyball Association? What are some ways that we can show up for one another? Whether we're focused on the I or the we, what's some ways that we can show up for one another?
Our group talked about how, especially in an environment like this, you get coaches from kind of every area of the sport, and some who have been here for years and some who are new to the program. And I had a coach that was Nancy. She checked in with me. She went, "How are you feeling? How are you doing? Do you feel like you're fitting in okay?" So we said, I can check in with you to see how you're doing. And even like, he's new to the program. I've been here, but I'm new to a different program. So like, I'm giving him advice to the program I was with last year and just making sure that he feels okay and he's not confused about anything.
Just one part is like collaboration, like supportive collaboration with coaches, because we all have ideas. Some of us have 25 years experience, some of us have 3 years experience, so the ideas might be different. So instead of shooting them down, we're like, get curious, like what's the outcome, what are you looking to achieve, so take that idea and get curious, because it might light up something in your brain. So just be supportive around the collaboration.
Oh man, everybody has different perspectives regardless of how much experience you have. Versatility adds value for sure. Really good. Don't let that table steal all your thunder. Who's gonna respond? Oh, we got a response right here. Got some competitors in here.
I think to add on to Chris, was that Chris? To the last point was like a willingness to learn and just be open to learn from all these experienced people around you. And when you're helping others learn, just checking your delivery and make sure that it's positive and supportive. Exactly what those guys said. It's an important thing to remember.
Oh my goodness, that's so rich. So rich. And I'm a firm believer that when you're creating and trying to build a culture of winning or success, more importantly, that you're either contributing to that or you're contaminating it. And something as simple as how we communicate with one another can very well contaminate the environment we're trying to create. Really important.
I just wanted to say, it's my second year in the program, and through the first year, we made some amazing relationships, and I think the relationship building amongst ourselves is important. We're all in different clubs, and we're able to collaborate, even though we're opponents, and we still share scouting reports and videos and game plans. And I forget sometimes, yes, I fall asleep, I apologize. But yeah, I value the relationships within our own groups and then outside our groups, and I think that's important for us.
And I don't want to steal your thunder. Is it Chris? Chris? Yes, I think you were the one sharing this, but you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the easiest thing we could do for someone else is be available. Is that what you said? The easiest thing that we could do is be available. I said it so I'm going to take a little thunder. No, I'm joking. Humility, right? And so being available to one another, answering the phone call, just saying it, checking in to see how people are doing. Hey, I was with that club last year. These are some of the things. How are you doing? I know this is your first year. This is your first summit. How are you feeling? What are some things that you're experiencing? How are you guys succeeding? How are you defining it? How can I support you? Being available is a great way as well. It would be a shame and a disservice to everyone we serve if what we've discussed in here didn't penetrate these walls. If we didn't take it into our practices yesterday. If we didn't make this a part of our conversations. If we didn't show up like what Chris said in being available for one another. If we didn't check in. Because that's what creates retention. That's what creates the environment we want to be a part of. That's what creates the experience for all of us. You see, I've learned a long time ago that as coaches, we impact more lives in a year than the average person in a lifetime. It's statistically proven. Coaches and educators. And I think a coach is an educator. It would be a shame if they didn't benefit from the development that took place in here this weekend. So take pride in that. And so my last thing I'm going to ask you is the very first thing I asked, right? What do you want to be remembered for? The record or the ripple? I was fortunate enough to write a book called Champions Creed, the undeniable principles that separate the good from great in sports, business, and life. And in that book, there's a number of activities and exercises that we do. But a phone call that I get often is about this activity I'm going to share here. How do you want to be remembered? What type of legacy do you want to leave? Now, I don't want to be morbid and dark. I don't want to be that. I'm not that person. But how do you want to be remembered when it's all said and done? Because I would like to believe that how I want to be remembered as a coach is the same way I want to be remembered as a wife, a mother, a friend, a daughter, a sister, a mentor, a leader. I think it all aligns. And if I do get a little dark, we don't know the day or the hour. That's the one thing that's inevitable after life, right? But one thing that we can control right now is our now. So I'm going to have us all individually, we're going to focus on that I, me, individually, right now, just you. And I want you to write out how you're going to be celebrated when it's all said and done, how you would like to be celebrated, what you would like to be said. And you can use this template. You don't have to use this template at all. I've been to a number of retirement services. I've been to a number of Hall of Fames. As I shared, I was just at one last night. Been to funerals. And I would argue that nobody in here wants a story to be fabricated about them, something to be made up. Because our values, our beliefs, our character, it's what we live out every single day. So what we're going to do for the next 5 minutes is we're going to write out our legacy now, and we're going to live it out every day from this moment forward. This is the only time we won't echo and clap. We'll just go right into this exercise. Go for it. I think it's really, really important sometimes just to recenter and be reminded of what's most important, right? To narrow our focus a bit. And so I think what would be most beneficial is if we keep that close. It's not necessarily something that we have to put on our computer monitor, but something that we can see often, somewhere where we can reference it and just be reminded of how we want to show up, how we want to be remembered, the value that we want to add every single day. And so if that was hard for you, tap your pens if you struggle to find the perfect words, right? I challenge you to do that again. Do it more often. Bring life to those values, your beliefs. Bring life to the things that are most important. Because I know as coaches, if you're anything like me, every once in a while, the silent pressures can get to us. Every once in a while, some things that are said by someone else can get to us. Every once in a while, that parent somehow penetrates our tough skin. Can I get an amen? Okay, so you guys are having the same issue in Canada, okay? We'll come back again and talk about that. But keeping things in perspective, remembering what's most important when there are moments where we could be derailed. So before we get out of here, what I would like for us to share, we won't share this. I want us to keep that personal and close. Bring it to life, but keep it personal and close. But what I would love for us to share is our takeaways. What's something that we would add to our scoreboard, our culture, our values? What's something that we would keep that we already have? What's something that we would subtract or remove from our environment?
One thing I would add/keep is the aspect of being proud of everything you do as part of my scoreboard. Because at the end of the day, when the athletes take the jersey off, like, are you proud of your performance? Like you talked about, success isn't predicated on a win or a loss. Right? I think success is predicated on how proud you are at the end of the day. Right? You can win and not play your best because you didn't try as hard as you could, and you didn't put in that discipline, and put in that consistency. So you might not be proud of that, but in a loss, you might have done all those things and you're proud of your performance, right? So I think I would add to my scoreboard the element of being proud of everything that you do when you take the jersey off.
Something I would say that would be like an add/keep would just be, when we talk about this in our group, is just being present. And like me as a first-year coach coming into this, like this has been a great opportunity. Like, yeah, as much as we talk about how our season went, what we did with our clubs or our previous teams, it's nice to just relish in the moment and be like, I'm in a company with like very high caliber coaches, so it's like gaining that experience and just really enjoying the moment of like of the now.
Thank you for sharing. So a quick review. We talked about ICU. It's something that we say in our organization when we see other coaches, whenever they're doing something special, we say, I see you. Let me hear you say, I see you.
I see you.
Now my kids have something that they call mid, right? And you know, I haven't figured out exactly what that means, but I know how mid feels, and that felt very mid, okay? So we're gonna try that again. I see you.
I see you.
There we go. Now I want you to point to somebody next to you and say, I see you.
I see you.
Mid. So I don't know if we just got excited or if it was making eye contact with someone. I don't know if you just don't like the person sitting next to you, or maybe you just have issues with your vision and you don't actually see them, right? But we need to take it from like here to like there. I see you.
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 There we go. So impact, culture, and unity. That is what truly creates a culture in coaching that transforms. Clap it up for yourselves. Clap it up for yourselves. All right. So a few things. I wanted to share that I do have a book titled Champions Creed, written specifically for coaches who have high aspirations, who truly value a lot of the things that we discussed here today. And so if you would like a copy of the book, please feel free to purchase one. I have a few copies with me as well that I can personalize and sign for you if you would like to purchase one. All right. Another thing that I would like to add is stay connected. I pride myself on being connected to like-minded and like-hearted individuals. I've had some conversations with people who are in this room right now beyond the conversations that we had last spring when I came. And so I would love to maintain that dialogue. I'm on social media. There's my LinkedIn as well. There's my email. All right. Please stay in contact. I am, and Eddie and Angie will tell you guys this. I absolutely love what is taking place here at Ontario Volleyball Association. A huge fan of everything that you guys do, and I keep track throughout the course of the year, and I would love to continue to follow you guys as well. And last thing I would say is thank you. Thank you for not only being here today and listening to me share my passions, but also thank you for the roles that you have accepted within the programs. I know how crucial that was for me. It was trajectory shifting in my life, the roles that my coaches play, so I know how big they are. So thank you again. Thank you for having me.
Marke Freeman.
Let's give her a huge round of applause.